So we left off on the first video by creating this new age grouping, and we did a pivot table that counted up how many people died in each age group. We may now want to turn this into a per capita. So we need that. Remember, in our age lookup, we do have the population here. So we can do that math here. So from the pivot table, I'm going to copy the white part out, and I'm going to make a new sheet. If you notice, I'm starting to get some too much clutter here in my workbook without good labeling. So let's do some housekeeping. So this is age deaths by age, I'll call it. I'll call this my age pivot. And this one is our race pivot, the original one. Race lookup. And we have, I guess I have two race pivots now, don't I? This is the final one. I'm going to delete the first one. We don't need that one anymore. Up to you though, if you want to keep it. All right, so now I have everything labeled. I can see what I have. Deaths by age. So we have our age group over here on the left, and we have the population here. So now we can transfer this using VLOOKUP. We just need to remember that the age group that we're matching on needs to be the leftmost column in our VLOOKUP. Well, as long as we just tell it, here's the array right here, we'll be fine. We just can't tell it to use all of this. So we will do this a little bit harder. So let's do, we're going to put population here, and we can say VLOOKUP, the age group A2, comma, and then go over to your age lookup and highlight just those two columns that you want. And remember, we need to put dollar signs around the letters. I will get you this formula in a second here in a bigger thing. So we want the second column of our array, and we want an exact match. So here's the formula. I'll make it bigger. There you go. So remember that this is the big, bad, ugly array address. This is a little more complicated than using a named range like we did with the last one. And you could make a new named range of those two columns if you want, or you could do it this hard way. Either way, and again, we're grabbing the second column and we're saying false because we want an exact match. So there's our population figures for each group. Yay! And so then we can say, we can calculate a per, let's do per 10,000 people. So that would be the deaths divided by the population, and I'm going to put parentheses around that, times 10,000. And we still have, this first number here is less than 1, but let's do format cells and knock down the decimal points to just, we'll do 1 decimal point. So you can see it's less than 1 for the under 15 group. And then it starts to go up into whole numbers after that. When you do a per capita rate like this, you want to, whether you pick per 1,000, per 10,000, per 100,000, whatever it is, you find the one that works best for giving you a whole number. Ideally, not a really big number. So this is actually pretty good. 10, 13, 8. Those are things that people can understand. They're numbers within a person's grasp. But sometimes you maybe want to you want to match with some other published data where they used a per 100,000 rate, for example, and then you would want to use that so you can have an apples to apples comparison with another data set. So lots of different ways to go on this one. So now if we can chart this, let's highlight that column and go to Insert and choose, we'll choose a column or bar chart. And then we need to get the age groups in here. So if we say select data, edit, and then you highlight the age groups, and what it does is it puts the range in there, and you say, okay, now this is pretty ugly. The labels are not working very well. So we can go up and say change the chart type, and we could switch it to a bar chart, which goes sideways. We could say okay. And notice that it's starting with the older people. And where's our 85 group? They're way up there. I did 85 to 150, didn't I? So you can double click on this chart here, and you will get options over on the right. And under these little icons in here, these are kind of like tabs. So make sure you're on the one that has the bars, like a bar chart. That's called the axis options. And one of the options is categories in reverse order. And it will put them actually in the correct order. And then we can give this a title, opioid deaths per 10,000 by age group. Oops, you can move that around a little bit. You can go to under the chart, up on the chart design menu at the very top, you can say add chart element. You could add data labels on the end of each one if you really, really want. If you highlight on the bars, you can go over into that into the data, formatting options over on the right, and there's a color bucket. You can change what color you have. All kinds of formatting things you can do in there to make it look pretty. You can insert I think you can add some text in here. So we have a nice chart. One of the other big things that you might want to know is what's the trend over time on deaths. So let's go back to our original data, and what do we have in here about when the person died? The only piece of information is the actual death date. And like the ages, if we were to put this in a pivot table, it would struggle with, the years and the months and whatnot. The modern versions of Excel will automatically create months and years and quarters for you. There's a way to turn that off, by the way. I find it annoying, so I turned it off. But if the surefire way to make sure you're going to get a pivot table with the correct piece of information out of that date is to actually strip it from the date and make a new column. And this brings up, there's a series of date functions in Excel that are wonderful to know. So I'm going to turn off my filters. I'm going to show you a bunch of them, and then we'll use the year one. So I'm going to call this year. The series of functions are year, month, and day. There's also weekday. There's also some other things. We'll do a bunch of them here. So year H2, you just wrap the cell address with the word year in parentheses, and it might give you a date to begin with. So you right mouse click on it and say format cells and change it to number and no decimal places, and there it's going to give you the 2016. So why did that give you a strange date? So the thing to know about Excel and how it stores dates is that it doesn't actually store the 1-2-2016. It stores a number that represents the number of days that have elapsed since, I think it's January 1, 1900 or something strange like that. It's like a set point in the past. And it stores it as that number. And so when we told it to pull the year out of here, what happened is Excel was seeing the number 2016, and it was displaying it as the date that number represents, which in this case is 7/8/1905. So with dates, formatting cells is super important. Always make sure you've got the format that you want. So there I've got 2016. Make sure control period to make sure it went all the way to the bottom. So there's month and day as well. Day is less useful, but there's month. It'll give you 1 through 12 for each month of the year. If you wanted to find patterns about, whether opioid deaths spike in the summer or something like that, that would be useful. The other one that I like is weekday. So weekday works the same. You wrap it around your address, and you're going to get a number. 1 is Sunday, 7 is Saturday. You can also right mouse click and go to Format Cells here, and one of the options is Custom. And when you click on Custom, there's a sample, and then Type, and then there's this big long list. In the Type right now, it has a 0. I'm going to change that 0 to DDD, and what it'll do is change these to words. Now, this is great for looking at it, but if you try to sort it or put it in a pivot table, it will put it in alphabetical order, not the actual chronological order that the days appear in. So if you want to be able to sort it or do a pivot table that truly has Sunday to Saturday, I'd recommend leaving the numbers. But if you just want to look at it for whatever reason, then you can use this DDD trick. All right, so now that we have our year, let's see how many deaths there have been per year and make that into a chart as well. So we'll make a new pivot table, and we will count up. I got to find my year in here, and I probably have to do refresh again because I added a bunch of columns. There it is, year. We will count by year. Oh, but look what it did. It did sum of year. We don't want sum of year. Look, these numbers are huge. So we want to make sure it's value field settings and change it to count. So we have count of year. That looks more reasonable. I'm going to copy this out to a new sheet. So we have year, and this is deaths. Now we can make this into a chart. If you highlight all of it, though, and let's make a line chart, what's going to happen is you get this. And this is confusing at first, but what it's doing is charting the years along with what happened to there we go. It's charting the year as a line and the deaths as a line. And you can see that down here in the legend. So an easy way to fix that is to go over into your table, and there's the blue part. There's a way to move that back and have the blue only apply to the deaths. There you go. That looks better. Notice we've got a little dip here in one of our years. Let's go to Chart Design, select Data, and Edit. And then you can highlight your years to put those labels on. So we have a dip in 2010. It could be some inconsistent data. I would guess that's the case. I highly doubt that there was that much of a dip when all the other years are going up, up, up. So that would be something to explore when you're looking at this. Okay, we'll stop there. Thank you for watching.